You guys, most people have no idea what they're doing when they start their Airbnb business. And this can come back to bite them really, really hard because they think they're in one business, but they're actually in another. All right, guys, so I want to tell you a quick story about how I learned this lesson, how I lost a bunch of money learning this lesson, and how you can avoid the same mistake. So, when I was 22, 23, I had stored up a little bit of cash. I had like $120,000 in my checking account. And I thought at that point in my life that was big money. And I mean, I guess it is a decent bit of money, but it's like, I thought that because I had that amount of money, I was now an investor, and that all the money that I was going to make after that was going to be a result of managing this money. And what I didn't understand is there's a difference between being an active and a passive investor. And if you're an active investor, you still have a job. Right? Like a guy who sits and trades stocks all day. And I promise I'll bring this back to Airbnb and short-term rentals and relevant stuff. This is just a quick story. But a guy who sits in front of his computer and takes his, stack of money and he trades stocks all day, he's still working all day. He still has a job. And that's very different than parking your money in something more passive, like throwing it in an index fund or just buying a house and long-term renting it out. If you hire that out to a management company, that can be extremely passive. So what I decided to do with my money is I started a Jeep rental company. I bought some Jeeps and I started to rent them out. And what I didn't understand was that I had bought myself a job. So I approached it like an investor and I tried to do as little as possible to make money, and that business didn't end up working out very well. It broke even, but it wasn't the ticket to riches, and it didn't turn me into the next Warren Buffett. And the reason why that business ultimately ended up failing and I ended up shutting it down was because I had come into it with the wrong mindset. And looking back now, I'm like, if I would have approached that as a small business, as a job, it could have been very successful. There were a lot of things that I could have done above and beyond just renting out the Jeeps themselves to bring cash into the business and turn that into a cash flow machine. But I didn't do that because my mindset was, hey, I want to put my money in the form of Jeeps, and I'm an investor, so I don't want to, do a lot of day-to-day work to increase the cash flow of that business. Now, what does this story have to do with short-term rentals and people getting into Airbnb and not knowing what business that they're in? So, like I said, the real estate investor mindset is a passive investor mindset to a large extent. There's exceptions, but a lot of people, when they think of investing in real estate, they think in terms of investing, not building a business. And Sean Rakajic, who, if you're in the short-term rental space, you've probably seen, he's the man, talks about how Airbnb is not real estate. It is a hospitality business. You're taking an asset, a room, a house, a single-family home, an apartment, whatever it is, and you're taking it and you're packaging it in a hospitality format where guests can come in and they can stay. But what they're paying for is hospitality, not real estate. And it is, by definition, not passive. You need to manage at the very least, just doing the bare minimum, you need to manage your cleaners, you need to communicate with the guests, you need to take care of repairs, and there's a number of other things that you have to do just to stay alive in this business, right? Just to keep your head above water and keep guests moving in and out. Now, if you want to be actually good and do better than the competition and have higher occupancy and higher nightly rates, then you need to go above and beyond that. And that's the problem that a lot of people get into when they first get into Airbnb is they say, hey, I'm going to buy this property. It is, I'm going to take this and look at it as a real estate asset. I'm going to put it on Airbnb and it's going to make me money. And that can be true if you hire out the management. But if you do it yourself, it is not going to be passive. And that is what most hosts don't understand. They buy Airbnbs and they're not looking to start a hospitality business. They're looking for a passive stream of income. Now, this is not a problem. Okay, it is not a bad thing. I know lots of people who host and do an amazing job as a host for multiple units while still working their full-time 9 to 5, and they make great money and they have a great experience. And if that's you, then awesome. One, awesome. Two, if you could go back in time and tell old me that would be awesome. Would have saved me a lot of time and money. But if maybe you're not in the space yet, or maybe you're just getting into it, it's worth a long look in the mirror and asking yourself, what am I doing here? Am I coming in as an investor, or am I coming in as someone who wants to run a hospitality business? Now, both of those answers are fine answers, right? I mean, full disclosure, I manage properties on Oahu. I would love to, if you're an investor, if you have a unit, I would love to manage yours. But that being said, like, you can totally manage yourself. It's not a problem, but you just have to know that that's what you're getting into. And if that is not something that you want to do, it doesn't mean that you can't do Airbnb, you can't do STRs, and you can't get the higher returns. You just have to approach it in a different way, and you have to say, hey, I need to find someone to manage this property, because otherwise you are going to be in the business, and it's either going to take a lot more time and effort than you planned on, or you're going to do what I did, and you're going to do the bare minimum. Your returns are not going to be what you hope they would. So, action steps. If this is you, if you are thinking about getting into Airbnb, if you are maybe already in Airbnb and just getting started, take a look in the mirror. Say, hey, do I want to be a passive investor, or do I want to have a hospitality business? And if the answer is the first, then hire a property management company, talk to me, talk to someone else who's in your market. And if you want to run a hospitality business, then awesome, you know what you sign up for. Pretty quick hitter today, guys, but it is super valuable, and it's a super important frame